She was there among the blue hydrangeas, and my heart simply stopped. For 3 years, I had turned my mansion into a silent mausoleum. I pushed away friends, ignored family, lived only to work and remember Celeste, my fiancée who left 1 week before our wedding, taken by a cruel and sudden aneurysm. I had ordered all the flowers she loved to be torn out. If she couldn't see them, I didn't want to either. But yesterday, my sister Valentina forced me to hire a new gardener. "Sebastian, these plants are dying just like you are," she fired with that sledgehammer delicacy only she possesses. Today, looking through my office window, I saw her. Long brown hair captured by the wind, honey-colored eyes, that crooked smile as she planted daisies. Every detail was Celeste resurrected. I dropped my coffee cup. The noise made the young woman lift her eyes directly to me, and she smiled. A smile different from Celeste's, more mischievous, more alive. "Who is that?" I demanded as I came down the stairs, finding Valentina. "Mira Castellani, daughter of Mr. Dante, the new gardener. She helps him on weekends. Pretty, isn't she?" My sister arched an eyebrow, suspicious. Pretty was an insult to the magnitude of what I had just witnessed. I went out to the garden like an idiot, with no plan, no words. Mira had her back turned, humming something while she worked. I approached and, "I think you're stepping on the petunias, boss," she said without turning around, with obvious irony in that last word. I looked down. My $1,000 Italian boots were crushing innocent flowers. I can pay for them." Mira finally turned around, and up close she was even more devastating. "Of course you can. You rich people pay for everything, except what really matters." And she went back to planting, completely ignoring me. I stood there, frozen like a lovesick fool, or haunted. I still didn't know which. I became pathetic overnight. Monday morning, I canceled 3 board meetings to watch Mira prune the rose bushes. Tuesday, I pretended to take business calls on the terrace while she weeded the flower beds, her laughter echoing when her father told horrible jokes. Wednesday, I actually Googled how to talk to a woman who hates rich people. The results were not encouraging. "You're stalking the gardener's daughter," Valentina announced Thursday morning, appearing in my office with that annoying, knowing smirk. "This is a new low, even for your hermit era." "I'm not stalking anyone. I'm simply overseeing the garden renovations I'm paying for." "With binoculars?" I looked at the binoculars on my desk. "Bird watching. It's therapeutic. The only bird you're watching wears work boots and has completely destroyed your 3-year depression in 4 days." She sat on the edge of my desk. "Sebastian, she looks like Celeste. I see it too. But she's not Celeste. I know that. Do you? Because you're looking at her like she's a ghost you're trying to bring back to life." Her words hit harder than I wanted to admit. Was that what I was doing? Trying to resurrect what I'd lost? That afternoon I decided to act normal, professional, distant. I lasted 45 minutes. Mira was struggling with a massive bag of fertilizer when I found her, her face red with effort, cursing creatively in what sounded like Italian mixed with pure frustration. "Let me help," I said, reaching for the bag. "I've got it," she grunted, clearly not having it. "You're going to hurt your back, and you're going to ruin another $1,000 suit." She glanced at my outfit with obvious disdain. "Do you own anything that costs less than my father's monthly salary?" "I could change." "Don't bother." She finally dropped the bag with a heavy thud. "Look, Mr. Whitmore." "Sebastian, please." "Mr. Whitmore," she emphasized, wiping sweat from her forehead, leaving a dirt smudge that made her somehow even more beautiful. "I don't know what game you're playing, but I'm not interested. Rich men like you think the whole world is for sale, including people's feelings. My father needs this job, so I'm asking you nicely, stop hovering around me like some lovesick puppy." It's uncomfortable. The words should have offended me. Instead, I found myself smiling. "You think I'm lovesick?" Wrong thing to say. Her eyes flashed dangerously. "I think you're bored." I think you saw someone who reminded you of something you lost, and now you're projecting. I think in 2 weeks you'll be bored again, and my father will mysteriously be let go because the strange daughter wasn't interested in being your charity case or your rebound ghost. That's not my best friend in high school, she interrupted, her voice dropping to something harder, more painful. Fell in love with a rich boy. He promised her everything, took her to fancy restaurants, bought her expensive gifts, made her feel like Cinderella. Then his parents found out he was dating the cleaning lady's daughter. They paid her to disappear. She took the money because her mother needed surgery. I found her crying in a bus station with a check for $50,000 and a broken heart. She picked up her gardening gloves with sharp, angry movements. So forgive me if I don't swoon when millionaires suddenly notice I exist. I've seen how this story ends. She walked away before I could respond, leaving me standing among the roses like an absolute fool. Valentina was right, but also wrong. Yes, Mira looked like Celeste. But when she smiled, when she laughed, when she destroyed me with brutal honesty, those moments were entirely, devastatingly hers. And I was already in so much trouble. The universe has a twisted sense of humor. Friday afternoon brought dark clouds and weather warnings I completely ignored because I was too busy drafting an apology text to Mira that I'd never send. By 6 p.m., the storm hit like nature's personal vendetta against my mansion. I was reviewing contracts when Valentina burst into my office, soaked and panicked. The gardener's cottage is flooding. The roof collapsed on the east side. I was out the door before she finished the sentence. The small cottage at the edge of my property, where Dante lived, where Mira was probably trapped, was taking the full force of the storm. Rain fell in sheets so thick I could barely see 3 feet ahead. I found Dante outside, desperately trying to salvage tools from the flooded shed. "Where's Mira?" I shouted over the thunder. "Inside, the ceiling in her room." I didn't wait for him to finish. The cottage door hung crooked on its hinges. Inside was chaos, water pouring through a massive hole in the roof, furniture overturned, Mira standing on her bed in the back room, holding a box above her head while water rushed around her ankles. "The roof beam is cracking," she yelled when she saw me. "I just need to get my mother's things." A horrifying crack split the air. I moved on pure instinct, crossing the flooded room in 3 strides, grabbing Mira around the waist and pulling her off the bed just as the main beam collapsed exactly where she'd been standing. We crashed into the hallway, the box flying from her hands, both of us landing in a tangle of wet limbs and adrenaline. For a moment, we just breathed. Her face was inches from mine, honey eyes wide with shock, her body pressed against me in a way that made my brain completely malfunction. "You idiot," she gasped. "You could have been killed." "So could you. For a box of photographs. You risked your life for—" "I risked my life for you." The words exploded out of me, raw and honest and completely unplanned. "I don't care about the photographs, Mira. I care that you were in danger." She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Another crack from the ceiling made us scramble up. I grabbed the box she'd dropped, now soaked but intact, and pulled her toward the door. Dante met us outside, his face flooding with relief when he saw his daughter. "You can't stay here," I said. "No room for argument. Both of you. Main house. Now." "Mr. Whitmore, we can't possibly—" Dante started. "Dad, he's right," Mira interrupted quietly, looking at the collapsed cottage. "We can't stay here." An hour later, they were in my guest wing with dry clothes, hot tea, and Valentina playing hostess while I changed out of my soaked suit. When I came downstairs, I found Mira standing in the main hall, staring at the portrait of Celeste I'd never had the courage to remove. She turned when she heard me, and for the first time, her expression wasn't hostile, just complicated. "That's her," she said softly. "The woman I look like." I nodded, unable to speak. "Your sister told me. Your fiancé. I'm sorry." "Mira, is that why you've been watching me? Because I remind you of her?" The question deserved honesty. "At first, I admitted, moving to stand beside her, both of us looking at Celeste's painted smile. When I first saw you, it felt like the universe was playing a cruel joke. You have her hair, her eyes, her smile. I took a breath. But you're not her. When you laugh, it's different, louder, more free. When you're angry, you're terrifying in a way Celeste never was. When you work, you lose yourself in it completely. You bite your lip when you're concentrating. You sing off-key when you think no one's listening. You're absolutely, entirely yourself. She turned to face me fully, and I did the same. You're not a ghost, Mira. You're not a replacement. You're just you. And that terrifies me more than any resemblance ever could. Her eyes glistened with something that might have been tears. You really almost died for a box of my mother's photographs. I really did. That was incredibly stupid. Probably. She died when I was 12, Mira whispered. Cancer. Those photos are all I have left of her. I held out the water-damaged but salvageable box. Then I'm glad I was incredibly stupid. She took it, her fingers brushing mine, and for the first time since we met, she smiled at me. Really smiled. Not like Celeste, like Mira. And it was infinitely better. Waking up knowing Mira was under my roof felt like Christmas morning and a panic attack had a baby. I found her in the kitchen at 6 a.m., already dressed in borrowed clothes from Valentina, jeans and a simple sweater that somehow looked better than anything I'd seen on a runway. She was attempting to make coffee with my ridiculously complicated espresso machine, cursing at it in Italian. It requires a PhD to operate, I said from the doorway. She jumped, spinning around with wide eyes. I didn't want to wake anyone. I was just, let me. I moved past her, our shoulders brushing in the small space, and started the machine properly. Cappuccino? Latte? Americano? You know how to make coffee? She sounded genuinely shocked. I wasn't always rich, Mira, and even after I was, I still enjoyed doing some things myself. I glanced at her over my shoulder. Surprises you? Everything about you surprises me, she admitted quietly. It's unsettling. I made us both cappuccinos, the comfortable silence broken only by the machine's hum. When I handed her the cup, she took a sip, and her eyes closed in obvious pleasure. Okay, that's unfairly good. Family recipe. My grandmother owned a cafe in Brooklyn before she passed. Taught me everything. Brooklyn? She leaned against the counter, studying me with new curiosity. Not born with a silver spoon, then? More like a plastic fork from the corner deli. I sat on the opposite counter, something I never did, something that felt rebelliously normal. My father built his tech company from nothing. I inherited wealth, yes, but I also inherited his 70-hour work weeks and his fear that it could all disappear tomorrow. Is that why you buried yourself in work? After Celeste? Hearing her say my late fiancé's name without jealousy or judgment felt like permission, to be honest. I didn't know how else to cope. Work was the only thing that still made sense. Everything else felt like quicksand. I get that, Mira said softly. After Mom died, I threw myself into school, then work, then helping Dad. Anything to not think about the empty chair at dinner. We stood there, two broken people holding coffee cups in a kitchen too big for such intimate confessions, and something shifted. Some wall crumbled. Your father's cottage will take at least 2 weeks to repair properly, I said. You're both welcome to stay here. No strings, no expectations. Just humanity. Before she could answer, Dante appeared in the doorway, looking uncomfortable in the formal guest room clothes. Mr. Whitmore, you've been too kind already. Sebastian, I corrected, and I have 16 empty bedrooms. It's not kindness, it's common sense. See, Dad? He's being logical, not charitable, Mira said with a small smirk aimed at me. We'd be doing him a favor, really. Otherwise, all this space goes to waste. I caught her game and played along. Exactly. You'd be helping me justify the property taxes. Dante looked between us, a knowing smile creeping onto his weathered face. Well, if we're helping with taxes. The next few days became a beautiful, chaotic routine. Mornings started with breakfast wars, each of us trying to wake up earliest to make coffee for the others. Mira won most days through sheer stubbornness. Dante would join us, sharing embarrassing stories about young Mira that made her blush adorably. Valentina orchestrated everything like a scheming fairy godmother, constantly finding reasons to leave Mira and me alone. Thursday afternoon, I found Mira in the library, surrounded by books she'd pulled from shelves, completely absorbed. "Find anything interesting?" She held up a worn copy of Garcia Marquez. "You have first editions of Love in the Time of Cholera in 6 different languages. Who are you?" "Someone who believes love stories transcend language." "That's disgustingly romantic." But she was smiling. "My mother loved this book, read it to me in Italian when I was little. I barely understood it, but I loved how her voice changed with each character." I sat beside her on the floor, the expensive Persian rug be damned. "Read me something. In Italian." "You won't understand." "I don't need to understand the words." Something in her eyes melted. She opened the book and began reading, her voice soft and musical, wrapping Italian syllables around Marquez's words like silk. I watched her face transform, watched her become the little girl listening to her mother, watched her forget to guard herself. When she finished the passage, she looked up to find me staring. "What?" "I was wrong earlier," I said. "I understand perfectly." She swallowed hard. "Sebastian, I'm not him, Mira. The rich boy who hurt your friend. I'm not going to offer you money to disappear or treat you like a secret. If anything, I want to shout from every ridiculous balcony in this mansion that you're here, that you're real, that you make me feel alive for the first time in 3 years." "That's a lot of balconies," she whispered, but she wasn't pulling away. "I know. It's excessive. I might need help." She laughed, that beautiful, free laugh that was nothing like Celeste's. And something in my chest that had been frozen since the day I lost my fiancé finally thawed. The almost kiss happened on a Tuesday. We were in the garden, because of course we were, as if the universe had a theme, and Mira was teaching me how to properly prune roses. Her hands guided mine, showing me the correct angle, the gentle pressure needed. "You have to respect the plant," she murmured, standing so close I could smell her shampoo, something floral and completely intoxicating. "Cut too harshly and you damage it. Too timid and it won't thrive." Sounds like advice for more than gardening. She looked up at me and we were suddenly frozen in one of those movie moments where time stops and the world shrinks to just 2 people breathing the same air. "Sebastian." My name on her lips was a question, a prayer, a surrender. I leaned down, she lifted up, and we were a heartbeat away from crossing a line we couldn't uncross when, "Sebastian Whitmore, you ghost!" We sprang apart like guilty teenagers as a hurricane in Louboutins stormed into the garden. Penelope Ashford Kent, my ex-girlfriend from my college days, now a prominent socialite, stood there in a designer dress that probably cost more than Dante's annual salary, looking at Mira like she was an interesting garden gnome. "Penny," I said, my voice flat. "What are you doing here?" "Your sister told me you were finally emerging from your cave. I had to see for myself." She air-kissed my cheeks, leaving lipstick marks I'd have to scrub off. "Darling, we're all so worried. You've missed every gala, every fundraiser, every—" She finally acknowledged Mira's existence. "Oh, and you are?" "Leaving," Mira said coldly, pulling off her gardening gloves. "Mira, wait!" But she was already walking away, her shoulders rigid with something that looked painfully like humiliation. Penny watched her go with barely concealed amusement. "Pretty little thing? New gardener? She looks familiar somehow." "Penny, I need you to leave. Don't be rude. I came all this way to invite you to the Vandermeer Charity Gala this Saturday. Black tie, all the usual crowd. You can't keep hiding forever, Seb." "I'm not hiding." "No?" She gestured around the garden. You're playing in the dirt with the help? That's quite the character development. The casual cruelty in her tone made my blood boil. Get out. Excuse me? I said get out of my house, off my property and out of my life. You were always a snob, Penny, but I was too young and stupid to see it. Now I do. Leave. Her face twisted with shock and indignation. You'll regret this. When you come crawling back to society, no one will. I don't care. And the shocking part was, I meant it. The only person's opinion I care about is currently walking away because of you. I didn't wait for her response. I ran. I found Mira in the library, aggressively re-shelving books. That was Penelope, I said to her back. She's no one important. She's your people, Mira said without turning. Designer clothes, perfect makeup, knows all the right names. That's your world, Sebastian. That's not my world. Not anymore. She spun around, eyes blazing. Yes, it is. You can play at being normal here, in your garden, making coffee and reading poetry. But that woman, that gala she mentioned, that's reality. Your reality. Mira, we almost kissed, she said, and her voice cracked. I almost let myself believe this could be real, that I could be part of your life without being a scandal or a curiosity or a pretty little thing you're playing with. You're none of those things. To you, maybe, but to them? She gestured vaguely toward where Penny had been. I'll always be the gardener's daughter, the girl who doesn't know which fork to use, who shops at thrift stores, who wouldn't last 5 minutes at a charity gala without feeling like an imposter. I moved closer, desperate to make her understand. Then I won't go to galas. I'll sell this mansion, give away the money, become whatever you need me to be. That's the problem. She pressed her hands against my chest, stopping me. I don't want you to become anything, Sebastian. I don't want you to change or sacrifice or play pretend. You built something incredible from your father's legacy. You employ hundreds of people. Your wealth does actual good in the world. I won't be the reason you throw that away. Then what do you want? Her eyes filled with tears. I want to be enough as I am, not someone you have to hide or defend or apologize for. I want to walk into your world and belong there, not despite who I am, but because of it. And I don't know if that's possible. It is, I said fiercely, catching her face in my hands. Mira, you could walk into any room in this world and own it. Not because of money or status or the right last name, but because you're brilliant and fierce and real in a way most people spend their whole lives pretending to be. You see me that way. They won't. Then I'll make them see it. I'll spend every day proving that you're not just enough. You're everything. She closed her eyes, leaning into my touch. That's a beautiful promise. But you don't believe it. I want to, she whispered. God, Sebastian, I want to so badly. Then try. Give me a chance to prove it. Come with me to that stupid gala. Let me show you off to their world and watch you shine so bright they'll need sunglasses. She laughed through her tears. That's the worst metaphor you've ever made. I'm nervous. You make me stupid. You make me stupid too, she admitted. Then, before I could process it, she kissed me. Just a brush of lips, soft and quick and perfect. I'll think about the gala, she said, pulling back. But if even one person makes me feel small, I'm leaving and taking all your first edition Garcia Marquez books with me. That's fair. They're yours anyway. Saturday arrived like an execution date neither of us could escape. I spent the morning pacing my office in my tuxedo, checking my phone every 30 seconds. Dante had given me his blessing the night before with a knowing smile and a firm handshake. She's terrified, you know, he'd said. But she's also my daughter, which means she's too stubborn to back down from a challenge. Valentina had kidnapped Mira after breakfast, declaring a styling emergency that involved 3 hours, a team of professionals I didn't know she'd hired, and a locked door with explicit instructions that I was not allowed anywhere near the guest wing. You'll see her when she's ready, Valentina had said with wicked glee. This is my masterpiece. Now, standing in the foyer, checking my watch for the 100th time, I wondered if Mira had climbed out a window and fled to Mexico. I wouldn't blame her. "Stop fidgeting. You look like you're about to rob a bank," Valentina said, descending the stairs in her own gown. "Also breathe. You're no good to her unconscious." "Is she okay? Did she change her mind? Should I cancel?" "Sebastian." My sister gripped my shoulders. "Shut up and look." I turned toward the top of the stairs and forgot how to function. Mira stood there, and she was devastating. The dress was deep emerald green, simple but elegant, hugging curves I'd tried very hard not to notice, flowing to the floor like water. Her hair was swept up, showing her neck, small diamond earrings catching the light. But it was her face, minimal makeup that enhanced rather than hid, her honey eyes wide with nervous uncertainty, that completely destroyed me. She wasn't trying to be someone else. She was just more herself, amplified. "I look ridiculous, don't I?" she said, starting to descend, wobbling slightly in heels she clearly wasn't used to. "Valentina, I told you this was too much." "You look perfect," I managed, meeting her at the bottom of the stairs. "Mira, I can't." "Smooth, brother. Real articulate," Valentina muttered. But Mira was smiling now, that nervous smile that made me want to cancel everything and just stay here, in this moment, forever. "You don't look so bad yourself," she said, adjusting my bow tie even though it was already perfect. "Very James Bond. If James Bond had a concerning obsession with gardening. That's my favorite version of him." "Mine too." Valentina coughed loudly. "As adorable as this is, you're going to be late. Go, dazzle, make me proud." The Vandermeer estate was exactly as pretentious as I remembered. All marble columns, ice sculptures, and people air-kissing while calculating each other's net worth. I felt Mira stiffen beside me the moment we entered. "Smile," I whispered, taking her hand. "And remember, you promised me the Garcia Marquez books." That made her laugh, a real laugh, and several heads turned at the sound. Good. Let them look. "Sebastian, you came." Mrs. Vandermeer herself descended upon us, dripping in diamonds and fake warmth. And with a guest. How unexpected. "Mrs. Vandermeer, this is Mira Castellani." I kept my voice even, daring her to say something dismissive. "Castellani? Italian heritage? How exotic." Translation: I don't recognize that name from the society registry. "My family's from Tuscany," Mira said with surprising grace. "Third-generation American, though I suspect most of our families came from somewhere else originally, didn't they?" It was polite. It was pointed. It was perfect. Mrs. Vandermeer's smile tightened. "Indeed. Enjoy the evening." As she swept away, I squeezed Mira's hand. That was brilliant. That was me resisting the urge to tell her that her ice sculpture is anatomically incorrect if it's supposed to be a swan. I had to bite back a laugh. "Is it? Swans have longer necks. That's clearly a deformed goose." God, I loved her. The thought hit me so hard I actually stumbled. Loved. Present tense. Not the ghost of past love or the shadow of what I'd lost. This was new, terrifying. Real love for the woman beside me who was critiquing ice sculptures and stealing my heart without even trying. "Sebastian, you okay?" Mira's concerned face swam into focus. "Yes, perfect. Just realized something important." "What?" "I'll tell you later. Right now, let's get you some champagne and I'll introduce you to the few people here who are actually decent humans." For an hour, it went surprisingly well. Mira charmed the elderly Mr. Chen with her knowledge of rare orchids. She debated environmental policy with a senator and won. She made the notoriously serious Ambassador Laurent laugh so hard he snorted champagne. I stood back and watched her shine, feeling pride mixed with something that felt suspiciously like vindication. "See?" I wanted to shout at everyone who'd ever underestimated someone based on their bank balance. See how extraordinary she is? Then Penelope appeared with reinforcements. Well, well. The gardener actually came, Penny said loudly enough for nearby groups to hear. She stood with 3 other socialites, the Mean Girl squad in designer armor. That's brave. Mira's hand tightened on her champagne glass, but her smile didn't waver. Penelope, lovely to see you again. I'm afraid I didn't catch your last name the other day. Ashford Kent. Though I suppose Sebastian hasn't mentioned me. We go way back. Very way back, if you understand my meaning. The implication was clear and completely false. Penny and I had dated for 3 months in college before I realized she had the depth of a puddle. I do understand, Mira said sweetly. History, past, no longer relevant. Like all those fashion trends you're wearing from 2 seasons ago. Someone nearby choked on their drink. Penny's face went red. At least I didn't need a makeover to fit in here. Some of us belong. Penny, stop. My voice cut through the growing audience. You're embarrassing yourself. I'm embarrassing myself? You brought the help to the Vandermeer Gala. You're making a mockery of what? Mira set down her glass with careful precision. Of your narrow little world where people are only valuable if they have the right pedigree. Where kindness matters less than stock portfolios. Where someone's worth is measured in carats instead of character. She stepped closer to Penny, and despite being 3 inches shorter in heels, somehow looked down at her. I don't need to belong here. I don't want to belong here. I came because someone I care about asked me to. Someone who's kind and generous and real. Everything you people spend millions trying to fake. She turned to me, and my heart cracked at the tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, Sebastian. I tried, but I can't breathe in here. And she walked away, straight-backed and magnificent, leaving me with a choice that wasn't really a choice at all. I didn't think. I just moved. Sebastian, where are you? Someone called behind me, but I was already pushing through the crowd, ignoring the whispers and stares. I found her on the terrace, standing by the balustrade, her shoulders shaking with silent tears she was trying desperately to hide. Mira. Don't, she said without turning. Please don't tell me it's okay or that they don't matter, because they do matter. That's your world in there, and I'll never… You're right. That made her turn around, confusion written across her tear-stained face. What? You're right. That is my world in there. I moved closer, not touching her yet, but desperately wanting to. A world of people who measure worth in dollar signs, who think kindness is a weakness and authenticity is something to be mocked. A world where someone as extraordinary as you gets dismissed because your father works with his hands instead of pushing papers. Sebastian, I'm not finished. I took a breath. I've spent 3 years hiding from life, Mira. After Celeste died, I convinced myself that feeling nothing was safer than feeling everything. I went to these events like a ghost, said the right words, wrote the right checks, and never let anyone actually see me. Because if they couldn't see me, they couldn't hurt me. I stepped closer, and she didn't move away. Then you appeared in my garden, covered in dirt, telling me off for stepping on petunias. And you saw me. Really saw me. Not my money or my tragedy or my last name. Just me. The guy who makes terrible coffee metaphors and reads too much poetry and is completely, hopelessly falling in love with you. Her breath caught. You can't just say things like that. Why not? It's true. I love you, Mira. Not because you look like someone I lost. Not despite who you are. Because of exactly who you are. Brilliant and fierce and real and so beautiful it physically hurts to look at you sometimes. Tears spilled down her cheeks. This doesn't fix the problem. Your world isn't worth having if you're not in it. I took her hand, and this time she let me. Come with me. Please. Trust me one more time. She searched my face for a long moment, then nodded. We walked back into the ballroom together, and I didn't stop until we reached the center of the room. The orchestra was playing something classical and forgettable. I signaled them to stop. The music died. Hundreds of faces turned toward us. "Sorry to interrupt," I said, my voice carrying across the suddenly silent room. "But I have something to say." "Sebastian, what are you doing?" Mrs. Vandermeer hissed. "Something I should have done a long time ago." I kept my eyes on the crowd, on Penelope's shocked face, on all the people who'd spent years pretending to care about each other. "Most of you here tonight knew Celeste. You came to our engagement party, sent flowers when she died, told me you were there for me." Uncomfortable silence. "But none of you actually were. Because being there would have meant accepting that I was broken, that I needed help, that I wasn't the polished, perfect Sebastian Whitmore you wanted me to be. It was easier to just wait for me to get over it, to come back to normal." I turned to Mira, whose eyes were wide with something between terror and hope. "This woman saved me. Not with money or connections or the right last name. With honesty, with kindness. With a completely irrational hatred of rich people that she's slowly learning to overcome because she's generous enough to see past her own prejudices." A ripple of laughter, some genuine, some nervous. "Mira Castellani is smarter than half the people in this room. She's kinder than all of us combined. She can identify rare orchids, debate environmental policy, speak 3 languages, and make me laugh for the first time in 3 years. And if you can't see her worth because her father is a gardener instead of a CEO, then you're not just snobs, you're idiots." "Sebastian," Penelope gasped, "I'm not finished." I turned back to Mira, taking both her hands now. "I know this isn't the grand romantic gesture you probably imagined. I know I'm doing this in front of people you don't like, at a party you wanted to leave. But I need you to hear this, and I need them to hear it too." I dropped to one knee. The room exploded in gasps and whispers. "I'm not proposing," I said quickly, seeing Mira's panic. "We've known each other for 3 weeks. I'm dramatic, not insane." She laughed through her tears, and it was the most beautiful sound in the world. "I'm just asking you to give us a chance, a real chance. Not hiding in gardens or libraries, but out in the world. This world, the real world, any world you want. Let me prove that what we have is stronger than their judgment. Let me love you the way you deserve." She pulled me to my feet, not caring about the audience, the cameras that were definitely recording this, the scandal this would cause. "You're completely insane," she whispered. "Is that a yes?" "You're lucky I'm insane too." And she kissed me. Really kissed me, in front of 300 people, in front of cameras and gossips, and everyone who'd ever doubted that someone like her could belong in someone like my life. The room erupted in applause, some genuine, some obligatory, but I didn't care. Because I was kissing Mira Castellani, and she was kissing me back. And for the first time since Celeste died, I understood what it meant to truly live again. When we finally broke apart, she rested her forehead against mine. "We're going to be in so many tabloids tomorrow. Is that a problem?" "Only if you don't take me home right now and make me more of that unfairly good cappuccino." "That can be arranged." We walked out together, hand in hand, leaving the gala and its judgment behind. Behind us, I heard Valentina's voice ring out clearly. "That's my brother, everyone! Thank you! Tip your servers! Try the deformed goose sculpture." I was definitely buying her a car. The cappuccino tasted even better at 2 a.m., sitting on the kitchen floor in our formal wear, laughing about the chaos we'd left behind. "Your sister texted me 17 times, Mira said, scrolling through her phone. "Apparently the video already has 2 million views. We're trending, whatever that means. It means we're officially a scandal." I refilled her cup. "Regrets?" She looked at me over the rim, those honey eyes reflecting the soft kitchen light. "Ask me in the morning when the tabloids come out." But morning came, and with it, something unexpected. The headlines were brutal. Billionaire's garden romance. From grief to gardener's daughter. Whitmore's shocking display. But underneath the sensationalism, something else emerged. Comments, thousands of them. Finally, someone in that world keeping it real. The way he looked at her. That's what love looks like. She told them all off, and I'm here for it. More of this energy in 2025, please. Mira read them with growing disbelief. They're on our side. Not all of them, I pointed out, scrolling past some particularly vicious commentary. But enough. Turns out people like authenticity, even messy, dramatic, public declaration authenticity. Dante appeared in the doorway, newspaper in hand, trying not to smile. You two made quite the impression. Mrs. Chen from down the street called. Said she always knew my daughter was special, and it's about time the rich folks figured it out. Dad, I'm so sorry if this affects your work. Affects it? He laughed. Mr. Rodriguez called this morning. Wants to hire me for his estate. Said anyone who raised a daughter brave enough to stand up to Penelope Ashford Kent has his respect. I have 3 new clients because of last night. Mira's eyes filled with tears. Really? Really? He kissed the top of her head. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. Your mother would be too. After he left, Mira turned to me with an expression I couldn't quite read. What? I asked. I'm terrified. Of what? That I'm going to wake up and this is all a dream. That you're going to realize I'm just a girl who knows more about soil pH than stock markets. That, I kissed her, cutting off the spiral of doubt. You're not just anything, I said when we broke apart. You're everything. And I'm going to spend however long it takes proving that to you. That could take a while. I'm very stubborn. Good. I'm very patient. And I make excellent cappuccino. She laughed, and the sound filled every dark corner of the house that had been silent for too long. 6 months later, the garden had never looked better. Dante's cottage was completely rebuilt, larger, with modern amenities but keeping the charm Mira loved. The main garden had been transformed into something that blended Celeste's original vision with Mira's wilder, more natural aesthetic. It felt alive again. We felt alive again. Mira had started taking business classes at night, not because I asked, but because she wanted to understand the financial world I navigated. Know your enemy, she'd joked. But I saw the way she lit up discussing sustainable investing and social entrepreneurship. I'd started volunteering at a community garden in Brooklyn, teaching kids from my old neighborhood about growing their own food. Mira came with me every Saturday, her laugh mixing with children's giggles, dirt under all our fingernails. We'd found a balance. I still attended necessary business functions, but now Mira came with me, not as arm candy but as herself. She'd started a blog about urban gardening that had exploded in popularity. Socialites who'd once dismissed her now invited her to design their rooftop gardens. You've created a monster, Valentina teased one evening, watching Mira debate organic fertilizer with a duchess. She's more popular than you now. Good, I said, meaning it. But it wasn't all perfect. We fought about my tendency to try solving her problems with money, about her stubborn refusal to let me help even when she needed it, about stupid things like whose turn it was to make coffee. The difference was, we fought and stayed. We apologized. We grew. One night, lying in bed after a particularly ridiculous argument about whether roses or wildflowers were superior, there was wine involved, Mira turned to me. I love you, she said simply. I don't think I've actually said it out loud yet. But I do. Love you. Even when you're being an insufferable rich boy who thinks money solves everything. I love you too, I said, pulling her closer. Even when you're being a stubborn gardener who thinks money solves nothing. We're a disaster. We're perfect. And somehow, both were true. 9 months later, I found Celeste's portrait in the storage room where Valentina had quietly moved it months ago, giving me space to let go without forcing it. Mira found me there, sitting on the dusty floor, looking at my late fiancé's painted smile. Hey, she said softly, sitting beside me. You okay? Yeah. And I was. I was just thinking. Celeste would have liked you. You're both terrifyingly honest. She probably would have recruited you for some elaborate prank on me. I would have been honored. Mira rested her head on my shoulder. Does it still hurt, missing her? Always, but differently now. I kissed Mira's hair. It's like she's part of my story, but she's not the whole story anymore. You're not a replacement for what I lost. You're something entirely new, something I didn't know I could have again. Good answer. She was quiet for a moment. I think we should hang it back up. What? The portrait, in the main hall. She was important to you. She's part of what made you the person I love. I'm not threatened by that. I turned to look at her, this incredible woman who somehow had room in her heart for my past and my present. Are you sure? I'm sure. She smiled. Besides, I like having her there. It's like she's watching over us, making sure you don't do anything stupid. Too late for that. I fell in love with a woman who hates rich people. Hated. Past tense. You've corrupted me. She stood, pulling me up. Come on. Dante made his famous lasagna and your sister brought wine. Real family dinner. Real family. The words settled into my chest like coming home. We hung Celeste's portrait back up that weekend, and it felt right. Not like living in the past, but honoring it while moving forward. 1 year later. The garden party was Mira's idea. If we're going to do this, she'd said, we're doing it our way. Outside, casual, real flowers, not those ridiculous ice sculptures. Food people actually want to eat, and absolutely no deformed geese. So we invited everyone, the society crowd, our friends, Dante's new clients, kids from the Brooklyn Community Garden, Mrs. Chen from down the street. The mansion grounds filled with the most eclectic guest list anyone had ever seen at a Whitmore event. I found Mira in the rose garden, adjusting flowers with the obsessive attention only she could manage. They're perfect, I said. The pink one is slightly off-center. Mira, what? They're perfect. You're perfect. Everything is perfect. Stop fidgeting. She turned to me, beautiful in a simple sundress, her hair loose, looking nothing like the society women in their designer gowns and everything like the woman I wanted to spend my life with. I'm nervous, she admitted. About the party? About this. She gestured between us. A year ago, I was just the gardener's daughter who hated rich people. Now what am I? I took both her hands, grounding her like she'd grounded me so many times before. You're Mira, the woman who taught me how to live again, who challenges me, frustrates me, makes me laugh, makes me think. You're my best friend, my partner, my home. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the small velvet box I'd been carrying for weeks, waiting for the right moment. This was it. You're the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with, I said, opening the box to reveal the ring. A simple emerald surrounded by tiny diamonds, elegant but not ostentatious, just like her. Mira Castellani, will you marry me? She stared at the ring, then at me, her eyes filling with tears. You said you weren't insane enough to propose after 3 weeks. It's been a year. I've upgraded to acceptably insane. She laughed through her tears. The ring is green. Emerald. Like the dress you wore to the gala. Like your eyes in the garden light. Like the life you brought back to this house. You're such a poet. Is that a yes? That's a... You better not be doing this because you think I expect some grand gesture. Because I don't need... I kissed her, cutting off the familiar spiral. I'm doing this because I love you. Because I want everyone here to know that you're choosing me just as much as I'm choosing you. Because a year ago you saved my life. And I want to spend the rest of it returning the favor. She pulled back, cupping my face with her gardener's hands, strong and gentle and perfect. Yes, she whispered. Yes to everything. Yes to you, yes to us. Yes to this beautiful, messy, imperfect life we're building. I slipped the ring on her finger, and it fit perfectly, like it was always meant to be there. The guests found us like that, kissing in the rose garden, and the applause that followed was genuine and loud and joyful. Dante was crying. Valentina was filming and crying. Mrs. Chen was already planning the wedding menu. And somewhere, I like to think, Celeste was smiling too, happy that I'd found a way to love again without forgetting, to move forward while honoring the past, to bloom again after the longest winter. 3 years later, the twins were Dante's fault. "They have his troublemaking gene," Mira insisted, watching our 2-year-old daughters systematically destroy the library by pulling every book off the bottom shelves. "They have your stubborn gene," I countered, rescuing a first-edition Garcia Marquez from sticky hands. "And your beautiful eyes. And your dramatic flair," she said, watching Elena demand that her sister Celeste bow to her as Queen of the Flowers. Yes, we'd named our daughter after my first love. Mira had insisted, saying Celeste deserved to be remembered in joy, not just grief. It was one of the 1,000 reasons I fell more in love with my wife every single day. Our wedding had been perfect, held in the garden, of course, with wildflowers mixed with roses, guests from every walk of life, and Dante walking Mira down an aisle made of petals. Valentina had officiated, making everyone cry and laugh in equal measure. We danced under fairy lights until dawn, and it had been everything we never knew we needed. Mira had finished her business degree and started a non-profit teaching urban gardening to underprivileged communities. I'd shifted my company's focus towards sustainable technology and green initiatives. We'd sold the mansion, too big, too full of old ghosts, and bought a smaller estate with extensive gardens and room for our growing family. The old mansion became a community center and urban farm, providing jobs and fresh food to the neighborhood. Dante ran the gardening programs. Valentina managed the business side. It felt right, using that space for life instead of memory. "Mama! Papa! We found a frog!" Elena burst into the library, covered in mud, her sister right behind her. "In the library?" I asked, already knowing this would not end well. "No, silly. In the garden." "But we brought him inside to show you." Mira caught my eye, and we both started laughing. That helpless, joyful laughter of parents who'd given up on pristine anything the moment children entered their lives. "All right," she said, taking both muddy hands. "Let's get you cleaned up and return our friend to his home. Papa will make hot chocolate." "With the fancy marshmallows?" Celeste asked, hopefully. "Always with the fancy marshmallows," I confirmed. As they trooped toward the bathroom, leaving muddy footprints on hardwood floors I'd once obsessively protected, I couldn't help but smile. This was life. Messy, chaotic, imperfect, and absolutely beautiful. Later that night, after the twins were finally asleep and the frog returned to the garden, Mira and I sat on the porch swing, wrapped in blankets, watching fireflies dance in the darkness. "Do you ever miss it?" she asked quietly. "The old life? The quiet mansion? The simplicity of grief?" "Never," I said honestly, "though I sometimes miss sleeping past 6 a.m. She laughed, snuggling closer. "Fair. But was it worth it? All of this? The chaos?" I thought about the question, really thought about it. About the journey from that first day I saw her among the hydrangeas to this moment. This life. This love. "Mira, you gave me everything. A reason to feel again, to hope again, to believe that loss isn't the end of the story. You gave me a family, a purpose, a life that matters beyond balance sheets and board meetings. You taught me that sometimes the most valuable things can't be bought. They have to be grown." That's very poetic for someone who's been hit with a garden hose twice today. Elena has excellent aim. She gets it from me. We sat in comfortable silence, the kind that only comes from years of learning each other's rhythms, understanding each other's silences. "I love you," she said eventually. 3 years married, and I still get butterflies when you come home. "I love you too," I replied. 15 years from now, covered in more gray hair and possibly grandchildren. Same thing, Dante's genes. I'll still love you. Only 15 years? Fine, 50, 60, however long we get. Deal. A light turned on in the twins' room. Someone was awake again, and we both sighed. Rock, paper, scissors? Mira suggested. Best of three? You're on. I lost. I always lost. But as I climbed the stairs to comfort whichever daughter had woken up, passing the portrait of Celeste that now hung alongside our wedding photo, I realized I'd actually won. Won a life I never thought I'd have again. One love that healed without erasing. Won a future built on trust, laughter, muddy footprints, and the revolutionary idea that sometimes the best things in life grow wild. Through the window I could see the garden, Mira's masterpiece, our shared sanctuary. The roses and wildflowers bloomed together, different but complementary, proving that beauty comes in many forms. Just like love, just like us, just like this perfectly imperfect life where the flowers finally bloomed again. The end.